The North Vietnamese Army and most Vietcong guerrillas were well equipped with light infantry weapons, including the superb AK-47 Kalashnikov assault rifle. They also had a range of medium and heavy machine guns. Because American aircraft were always on the prowl, almost everything had to be carried by porters, often at night. That meant the most valuable weapons were those that had the hitting power, but could still be transported easily. The Soviet-made rocket-propelled grenade launcher, the RPG-2, and its replacement, the RPG-7, were lightweight and highly effective against armor and bunkers. Designed to be fired by one man, the rocket had a range of more than 500 meters. For much longer ranges, the Chinese 75mm recoilless rifle, the Type 52, was an accurate and powerful weapon. It was able to fire high explosive shells over 6,600 meters. And with a high explosive armor-piercing shell, it was effective against armor at up to 800 meters. Its big disadvantage was that if its crew needed to move fast, it was a cumbersome weapon to manhandle. In the rugged terrain of South Vietnam, mortars were by far the most useful of all heavy weapons. The NLF and the North Vietnamese Army had thousands, and they were the perfect combination of hitting power, range, and portability. Although Vietcong forces in the South were estimated by the Americans to have lost more than 60,000 men in 1967, they had still managed to keep up their overall numbers. Thousands of North Vietnamese Army troops had been sent down the Ho Chi Minh Trail to join the guerrillas, and they now accounted for more than 1 in 5 Vietcong. The guerrillas also operated a draft in the villages. Because men younger than 20 were not called up by the South Vietnamese Army, most teenagers were still at home and made up a huge pool of potential recruits. Local NLF guerrillas were given only a basic minimum of infantry training. Later on, though, if they were recruited to a main force unit, they could get up to a month of advanced instruction. There were also dozens of training centers spread all over South Vietnam, running long courses for squad and platoon leaders, operators of crew-served weapons, and radio men. To make sure the guerrillas understood what they were fighting for, all training courses included political instruction. Most Vietcong attacks planned for the Tet Offensive were to be led by elite sapper commandos. Their job would be to launch the initial assaults, blasting their way into enemy headquarters and bases. Most sappers were part of well-trained main force battalions, but for Tet, the Vietcong would also heavily rely on local sapper units, men and women recruited inside the cities. Many drove pedicabs, cyclos, and taxis, or were chauffeurs and delivery men, and knew their way around the streets like no one else could. During the year, as casualties had mounted under the intense pressure of the American onslaught, the morale of the Vietcong had suffered badly. But news of the planned general offensive quickly revived the confidence of the guerrillas. Political officers worked hard to persuade the troops that the campaign would bring the victory they had fought so long to win. In the run-up to Tet, the rate of desertion from Vietcong units fell away almost to nothing.